Hello everyone, Rurikhan here coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about Blackguards. So Blackguards is actually a game that I got to watch a presentation of during Gamescom 2013, and I wanted to talk to you guys about that particular game. I told you guys about it in my trip log, so today we're going to be addressing some of it. Now I actually don't have any video of that game to show you guys, which is very unfortunate, but the only thing I attended was just a little closed doors presentation, so I didn't actually get to film anything or anything like that. I do have a couple of screenshots which hopefully are like somewhere here to give you an idea of what the game looks like. But anyways, Blackguards is an RPG by Daedalic Entertainment, and if I'm not mistaken, it is actually the first actual full-fledged RPG that Daedalic Entertainment has actually done, although I'm not 100% sure on that, so don't quote me. But it is a turn-based strategic combat RPG. As you guys can probably tell by the screenshots with the hex-based stuff and all that thing. It is using the Dark Eye rule set, which, as I mentioned previously, is apparently like German's version of Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, obviously it's not that, but it is basically a different rule set called the Dark Eye, which is very popular in German. So in this particular game, instead of actually playing as the heroes in shining armor, you're actually going to play as criminals. You're actually supposed to be these really bad guys. Like, your party is a party of bad dudes. And you guys are going to be the ones who are supposedly going to save the world or something like that. The story starts out as the best friend of the main character is killed by a wolf. And that friend also happens to be a princess of the area that you're in. So basically, she is killed by a wolf, and you're accused of her murder because nobody ever found the wolf. So as everybody believes that you're the murderer, everybody starts torturing your character, and at the same time, they're also asking your character about a name, this is a part that gets a little bit confusing because they didn't tell us the whole story during the presentation. But you're constantly getting asked about the name, and it's like you don't even know what name. It was a wolf, and people just keep asking you about it, and eventually they sentence your character to death. And eventually your character will actually get saved by a dwarf, and that dwarf also asks you to help him. This is the dwarf that I've mentioned in the Gamescom trip log, who is an arsonist with anger management issues. And this is just, it's like it's like the most perfect character that you could put in a video game to please me. It's like this game was handcrafted to me. So there's a dwarf who's an arsonist with anger management issues. Just like, it doesn't get any better than that. Later on, a mage will also join your party. This mage is a lover boy. I believe he's got a girlfriend pretty much in every town in the game. And you guys bend up and you escape prison and become fugitives. So eventually, since the main character knew the princess, he also knew her father, the count. So you guys try to go to the count who is, like I said, the princess's father, but he disappears. And after that, the main character tries to go to his best friend, and he's not there either. So basically, there's some kind of conspiracy going on that only your character isn't in on. And eventually, your character even says, okay, let's just look at the body, at the princess's body, because it's got to have like wolf bite marks and stuff like that. And that body disappears as well. So that's kind of the little tidbits of story that they told us during the presentation. The game itself, as you've probably seen from the screenshots, is a hex-based game. You can actually queue up actions over multiple turns by using waypoints, kind of like you do in a normal strategy game. If you guys ever used waypoints on StarCraft or something like that, you can do the same thing in this game through the hex-based system that they have. The animations, which you can't tell by the screenshots, are actually pretty good from what I could tell during the presentation. You can have up to 5 party members, but you can like pick and choose, I believe, from a bigger selection than 5. Although I'm not 100% sure on that one because, hey, it has been a while since Gamescom, okay? Don't kill me. There's going to be reactive elements in the battlefield. Like, for instance, there's a cave that they shown which had like stalactites on the ceiling, and if and you were fighting these monsters, and if they happened to scream, basically the stalactites would come crashing down. There's also several battle scenarios where, like, for instance, you had people who were imprisoned, and you could like pull a lever and get those people out of prison, or you could break down a chandelier on top of someone, that kind of stuff. So there's many ways for you to actually navigate battle scenarios, as well as different resolutions that you can basically pick and choose from. Also, there are things that basically some things that just make sense when you're interacting with elements. For instance, if you break down a loot crate and there's there's the little bits of wood that are left on the floor because did I say loot crate? I just meant like a wooden crate. If you break down a wooden crate, there's, little pieces of wood that are left on the floor. Let's say for some reason one of your party members casts a fireball there. Well, what's going to happen is that wood is going to catch on fire and is going to remain burning for a set period of time. I'm not exactly sure how much. They did this during the presentation, which was actually really cool because these monsters were advancing. And then one of the characters actually broke down a wooden box that was in the way. And so the monsters advanced. So they were on top of the wood. And then another character casted a fireball, set fire to the wood. So they hit the monster and at the same time set fire to the wood. And the monster was taking burning damage while he was in that particular hex. On top of that, there's also several traps and all kinds of crazy contraptions that you will find throughout the scenario. And those traps can actually use both by the player as well as by the enemies. Like if you guys remember, I told you guys that there were sections where you could drop a chandelier on someone. Well, if you don't use it against them, they can actually use it against you. And it's not just about dropping chandeliers. There's God knows how many other things. Like you could roll barrels against someone. You could cause the stalactites to fall. All that stuff. They also have a particular hotspot hotkey that you can use to highlight the different stuff in the scenario that you can interact with. Like I said, there's multiple ways to actually navigate these scenarios, and they can come up with different outcomes to battle. Like, for instance, you can choose the ways of stealth and avoid a lot of combat in some of these scenarios, but you're not going to be able to do just a stealth playthrough. You're always going to have to fight at some point. At least that's what they told me. However, it's like depending on the strategies that you employ, you kind of decide how much you want to fight and what you want to do. Like there's a situation, for instance, that you can free a couple of prisoners, like I said, and those prisoners will actually attack the guards, and you can basically escape that particular fight if you so desire. However, another outcome can be you just go straight up for the guards and kill them. A different outcome can also be you go straight up for the guards, kill them, then free the prisoners and kill them too, and get extra experience. So there are many, many ways to navigate all the scenarios that they give you. Also, I told you guys about traps as well as stuff that happens on like the stalactite thing and the chandeliers and whatnot. And those things are not just triggered by interacting with them. Some of them can be triggered by noise. Like I said, the stalactites are triggered by noise. Some of them can be triggered by spells, like for instance, burning the crates and whatnot. Some of them can be triggered by just flat out movement. Like let's say you probably have a trip wire somewhere. There's lots of things that can actually trigger these things. Also, these scenarios will be different depending on the on the strategy that the AI employs against you. So it might add a little bit of replay value there, as well as obviously the choices that you make for each scenario might give you different choices as you progress through each quest. There is definitely a big emphasis on player choice throughout these scenarios. That's something that they were definitely kind of telling us, that you will have basically a lot of choice as how you decide to engage and do combat or not do combat or do stealth or whatever you choose. Also, something that I found very interesting is that there is full friendly fire, and sure, in a lot of these games there usually is like some form of friendly fire, but I like when they just say, no, there's full-on friendly fire. And as a matter of fact, they said that there might be situations where you actually might have advantages in actually injuring your teammates. And I was like, okay. So they actually gave a couple of examples, but I don't even remember at this point because it's been such a long time. Also, when party members from your party die, you can actually resurrect them back at a town. However, you might lose companions based on your decision. So the usual RPG thing, if you do something that they don't like, they might go away, or you might do something that they don't like. And since this game kind of takes on a more darker theme, they might just straight up attack you when you have to kill them, or you might just straight up decide that you want to get rid of them by yourself. I don't know, because at the end of the day, all of your companions are supposed to be criminals. You're all supposed to be just a bunch of bad guys, not really heroes in shining armor like they've mentioned from the start. There are going to be about 190 battle maps, similar to the ones that you guys are seeing in the screenshots, but not, not just like one screen like that. Obviously, a battle map is a little bit more than that. And there's going to be a huge world for players to explore. I mean, this is something that all the RPGs basically say, which is there's going to be a huge world for you to explore. So there's no news there. They say they're estimating that people are going to get about 40 hours of gameplay time out of it, which is actually pretty considerable. If you really look at the type of game that it is, because the game was fully voice acted, at least the little bits that we've seen in the presentation, it was fully voice acted and good voice acting, not crappy voice acting or anything like that. No, fully voice acted and really good sounding voice acting. It also has a couple of proper cutscenes, and like I said, the animations during the combat and whatnot, they looked pretty good. There are also companion side quests, so like side quests to do for your dwarf friend. I believe there's one time that the dwarf is just like, oh, there's treasure in this cave, and then it just takes you off into a cave where all you got to do is just kill a bunch of stuff. There's also a companion side quest that you take the mage to save. Oh yeah, this was really interesting if I can remember the story correctly. But basically, you take the mage. He's supposed to go save one of his girlfriends. And apparently, before he saved her, she didn't really like him already. And he poisoned her husband so that he could be with her. It's something like completely crazy. It's basically the guy that went with me to Gamescom, Miguel from Rubber Chicken. He told me, no, man, that's just typical Daedalic Entertainment stuff. Now, I haven't really played a lot of games from Daedalic Entertainment, so I wouldn't know. But they are the same guys who've made Deponia, as well as a whole bunch of other titles. But I feel that Deponia is probably the one that is most knowledgeable by people, I'd assume. Either way, like I said, there's also lots of player choices and quests. Several quest goals that they give you are actually optional. The story will actually branch out if you do not meet certain objectives. For instance, if you take too long to rescue an NPC, the NPC will die, but the story will still proceed, and you will have to live with the consequences of that death, which is good. I mean, obviously, there's going to be, for each mission, there's going to be like an end goal, so to speak. And if you fail that, you're going to fail the mission, and you have to kind of retry, I would assume. But a lot of the missions will have several goals that you can actually fail at, and the story will still progress, which is cool. Like I said, it's something that I actually like. Living with the consequences of your choices and your failures in the game. The consequence aspect of it is actually something that I do like. They also say that the smallest decisions that you take can change the world. And if you guys were wondering, this is a game that, while it is definitely a serious game, it is also a game that doesn't take itself that seriously. Like, it's not, oh man, it was just serious business, because there's actually a side quest that you can get where you're saving a pet monkey, which is actually a gorilla, and you're supposed to operate a crane and then drop a cage on top of it, which it just sounded like such a ridiculous thing. It also involved bananas, I think. I don't know. It just sounds like it's going to be a really fun game, and at the same time, it's got a lot of dark elements in it, and it's got that whole tactical turn-based RPG, which is something that recently I've actually been getting into a little bit more for whatever reason, because there's another game that I'm watching as well, that I'm looking out for, that also is it's not really turn-based, but it's also a tactical kind of RPG. I don't know. I've just kind of been feeling in the mood for those types of games. So, yeah. Either way, that is what I currently know about Blackguards. What do you guys think about the stuff that I told you? Also, if you guys know more stuff about Blackguards, feel free to discuss that in the comment section below. And as per usual, leave me your comments, feedback, all that kinds of good stuff. And I will see you guys in the next one.